there are so many photographers who brought in ideas through post-processing, that allowed, um, people to see things in ways that no, it's not. It's not a documentary snap of what anybody with a camera could produce. It really does take some effort to bring that to your viewer. And, all of the people who did that, they inspired me.
And effort and artistic vision, because this is the thing. It's like you mentioned earlier. It's not a documentary style, so therefore you then expand whatever it is that you see with your artistic. If I can talk today, artistic vision. In post production, it's again. This is something I teach a lot in portrait photography. That I shoot for the edit. I already know how I'm going to post
Mm,
process it, and that will. Um, so almost dictate some decisions that I will make during the shooting stage because I already know what the post processing is going to be like.
totally, totally. I mean, and that's how I teach to this day. When we're out in the field, I'm with my group, I'm often saying, "Oh, this is going to be so much fun to process." And I'm trying to help them to see the possibilities there because a lot of times it really, does require an understanding of what's possible to even wanna shoot something. So often, I'll have students out there and they don't see it, they're not feeling it, then I'll show them a picture like, "This is the kind of thing that you're gonna end up with." They're like, "Oh," and then suddenly it just became really fun.
Yeah.
Like, it just opened a whole door of possibilities to them. I mean, and focus stacking is one of them. When they're looking and they're like, how do I make that work?" And then you're like, well, if it's all in focus, it does, I'm not saying that everything always needs to be a front to back focus, far from it. But, in certain situations where you have a difficult compositional, it's set of different difficult compositional options, it helps if you can get really close to something, exaggerate it in the frame through an ultra wide angle framing, which becomes possible, through focus stacking, right? So that sort of thing that it's people need to kind of see, oh, oh, that's how close you were. That thing was that big. It's this little tiny flower and it's got that presence in your frame. And once the world becomes your oyster. Once you realize that there are all these options, they do depend upon some chair time
Yeah.
when you get those files back. But if you're willing to do that, you just opened up so much more to yourself that could be, really fun and rewarding.
Exactly. And it is exactly that literally hyper realism, that allows us to create things that we just can't ordinarily see just with the naked eye, like focusing on things in a near, in the near foreground, our eyes will automatically be out of focus as far as the background is
Yep.
concerned. And so, creating things that go against that, basically to me, it always feels like it opens up another world, just like macro photography does. Like sometimes I look at macro photography and it sort of opens up a world that we just can't see. And yet it still
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah. That's a great
Um,
example. Yeah.
Stuart Wood's macro photography, he specializes on photographing spiders, um, jumping spiders, I believe they're called. I know it's the weirdest subject, but when you look at his images, it's like it's like an alien world. It's like a totally alien world that we just cannot perceive just through the naked eye,
Yeah.
and yet it exists
Yeah.
because he's photographed it.
Yeah.
And so every time I see a spider now, I have newfound respect. Because it's like, "Oh, man, you guys are freakier than I thought you'd be." But, it's interesting because it really, it's sort of it's like an onion, and it peels back layers of the sort of perceivable world around us. And that's one of the most fascinating things about photography in general.
Yeah. I mean, the camera is a tool to see things, sure, as you always do, but also as you can never on your own. And, some people really embrace that. I'm one of them. I love playing with that. Being able to not only see things that are really small and close and putting them in context and that, like what we were just talking about, but also I love the super tele landscapes also. Be able to take something and frame it up in a way that can only be done when you're standing in this position and looking way over there at 500 millimeters, that and the compression that you can get out of that and the way that you can bring something forward and really emphasize it in a way that you would probably most people would not even notice when they're standing there. That's super fun. It's always fun when I have a workshop and everyone afterwards is comparing their images, and people will say I hear this all the time, "Where were you when you took that?" And the person will be like, "Standing right next to you." You know?
Ah, yeah.
Like, the person, was right next to them and just saw something else because with 500, you've got so much out there that you could be looking at, and that guy just didn't see it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
and sometimes it is about, it's about the angle, it's about what's the word? Um, it's about application, I think. I always use this example. I've used it many times on this podcast. I remember quick story. I went to when my wife and I went on honeymoon. We went to Canada and we went to Lake Louise, um,
Nice.
which was a beautiful place. And and I was gonna do some photography around Lake Louise, and of course, by the time we got there, I was really hungry. And so, I walked up to the spot where everybody stands and takes the same shot, the shot that everybody's seen a million times on postcards and book covers and all the rest of it. And that's where everybody was. And then on the right hand side is a hotel with a really good burger bar. And I was very hungry. And so, I'm just like, I look over and like, oh man, I could murder a burger right now. So I just literally I went up to the same spot as everybody else. I took that shot and then I went for dinner. And that was it. And of course, when I got home, I'm like, oh man, what a missed opportunity. This teaches me two things. First of all, make an effort. Make an effort to step somewhere else, get a different angle, try different things, think about it, but also never go shooting hungry. So that's
Yes.
one thing I've learned for myself.
I would have done that too. I would have done exactly what you did because, yeah, I get like that. I get ravenous sometimes, and, like, if I am, that wins.
Yeah.
It does.
How much preparation goes into your images? This is the thing that fascinates me the most about landscape photographers. Is it like where's that sort of balance between spontaneity and preparation?
Oh, it's for me rotating, I love doing it both ways, the gathering and the hunting. So sometimes and it usually starts with just I want to explore. That's my go-to, you know. I always say that um that is your way into discovering yourself. The more that you find to photograph, the more that you find yourself. And I love going out and just seeing what I might find in places where I'm not necessarily supposed to find anything. I don't know what I'm going to find.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.